Hey everybody, it's Friday. I'm here still at the space station. My name is Kevin Murcko, CEO here at CoinMetro. This little thing we like to call, everyone likes to call an AMA. That's an Ask Me Anything. That means you ask, I answer. Still having a bit of trouble with my mesh network. Unfortunately, couldn't troubleshoot all the issues. So hopefully we have a better connection than we did last week. If we don't, my apologies. I think next week we'll finally get this thing sorted. Anyway, here we are. So I'm going to start going through some of these questions. By the way, just in case you've watched like 50 of these in a row and you don't know what date it is, what is today's date? Today's July 30th, 2021. I was going to say 2011. Jesus. Anyway, so yep, let's do this. Hi, Rebecca. Hi, Deep Philippe. We got a 60 to 90 biz dev request, 60 to 90 second biz dev request. Biz dev, wow, yeah, 60 to 90 seconds. Okay, so there has been some biz dev stuff, though it's just a continuation, I think, of stuff we've already talked about last week in discussion with an app inside of the more traditional financial space to take on our swap and KYC as a services, if that makes any sense. Still going through that. I've had calls now with a few different cannabis companies about utility tokenization, I guess. Promising. One of the companies, the owner unfortunately came down with COVID right after I met him. I fortunately haven't gotten COVID, but unfortunately he did. So waiting to have that conversation hopefully next week. But definitely, I believe we're going to see a few. Remember what we did for Parsiq back in the day, guys, which was basically helping them get their utility token off the ground. I expect to see a few more of those this time with a few companies in the cannabis industry. And I think at least one of those companies can be very interesting for us in terms of marketing, since they have quite a stable of celebrity endorsers. So that'll be interesting for us. It'll be interesting for them as well, because I think crypto is really going to embrace the image, the brand, and their narrative. So let's see what happens. Here before first, hey Luke, nice to see you here before it started. Any news on IQ protocol? Parsiq is getting bigger and bigger every day. Deanna Dog news a few minutes ago. Yeah, saw that news actually. I guess it's bigger than I know that how big. Jesus. It's Friday, guys. Yesterday was one of my daughter's birthdays, so got home a bit late, so brain might still be catching up with me. Considering that, still here in Mexico. I mean, it's 7 a.m. It's not that early, but I did wake up slightly earlier than 7 this morning. So yeah, Deanna Dog. I don't know who Deanna Dog is actually. I saw the news. Maybe that makes me. I don't know what that makes me, but yeah, I don't know who she is, but Parsiq definitely trying to bring on more and more experienced people into their advisory board, into their business. That's awesome. That's definitely a step. That's a step that's needed for every company as they grow. Some companies need to do it sooner than others. Some companies do it sooner than others. Some companies, depending on where they want to go and what the core strengths are, the internal core team of the company, definitely it helps them grow, expand, reach new markets. So it's cool to see that. I knew the boys and now girls at Parsiq were going to do an absolutely fantastic job, and that's why we supported them right from the beginning. Obviously, if you remember, we're the ones who launched, like I said, their utility token at 2.5 cents, and we're the only exchange supporting them for I think up to a year, until finally they started to see additional coverage on some other exchanges. And I'm glad to see their success. I'm happy for them. Haven't seen the guys at Parsiq in a while, just because I've been traveling myself. Actually, was just chatting with one of the guys on their team. I think they're taking some well-needed time off, and that's awesome, because that means they've been working hard. As far as I totally missed the actual question. Any news on IQ protocol? So IQ protocol, no. The team at Parsiq collectively, I think, is on a bit of a hiatus. They're taking a bit of time off. Obviously, not their PR guy, so that's awesome. But no, haven't heard necessarily anything back from Anatoly, though we haven't been pressing on our side either. I think I mentioned last week that I would. I haven't yet, but I will be pressing on Anatoly at some point in the near future so we can get an update on where we stand. Very pixelated, but audio is fine. Well, as long as you can hear, I guess that's probably the most important thing. For me, I can see the video okay. Sorry for the pixelation. Yeah, the mesh network is having a bit of issues. I think I might have to replace one or two of the little units here in the house. We have not lots of thick concrete walls, and my little studio here is quite far away from the main router, and it definitely doesn't reach this room. And the mesh networks, right now we actually have some people in one of the rooms where one of the main mesh network nodes are, or modules, I guess. I like saying nodes, though, it just sounds cooler. And I think it just constantly keeps getting moved because they're moving it with their stuff, etc. And every time it moves, the connection gets a bit weak. So anyway, it'll all be fixed hopefully next week. So sorry about that, everybody. Yes, found you. My alarms work. Hey, Jack. Awesome. It's good when alarms work. Kind of sucks when they don't. Hey, Jet Fuel. Nice to see you. CMC says XCM market cap is not verified. As a result, it's not shown in rankings. Why is that? Hey, Bill. I have no idea. You know, we've been working on CoinGecko quite exclusively for the past few weeks, making sure that CoinGecko actually reflects our actual rating. And now I think we're up to number 25, at least that we were yesterday. It fluctuates a bit with a 9 trust score on CoinGecko. We also need to focus on CoinMarketCap. I have no idea why they say it's not verified. I assume they probably verify market cap by taking it from more than one actual source, and maybe that's why, because obviously XCM is traded on CoinMetro and CoinMetro alone. Though in the past it was verified, and that was even before, at least I believe it was, and that was before it was even traded on a DEX. So not sure, but we're gonna have to reach out. Knows about that, so we can reach out to CMC as well. Thanks, Bill, for pointing it out. Hello, Kevin. You feeling any better these days? Yeah, actually, much better. It was about 4 days or 4 or 5 days or so where I felt just fantastically horrible. But yeah, now feel, normal. I feel normal. Everything is kind of going back to normal. No puffy lips. No, I remember that puffy eyes, the puffy eye syndrome thing I had like 6-8 months ago. None of that either. Definitely feeling better. Relatively normal. Was able to get a haircut as well, so kind of felt a bit more human. Coming into the end of last week. So why is Cadena not stakeable now? Hey, Bill. Well, because we reached the limit. Cadena set an initial limit of how much they would like to see staked based on the amount of treasury that they wanted to allocate towards rewards. They have said that the goal is to expand that. And right now they are paying from treasury, but moving forward, they also have this goal, as we do, to make it sustainable. So I do expect that to open up at some point in the future. But they didn't expect that limit, which I believe they set the limit initially at maybe 2 million, and they raised it again to 4, and then obviously we got 6 million in staking within 24 hours, I believe. So yeah, they just didn't expect their own success, and when they reached it, now they have to figure out how to escalate and move faster towards that sustainability. But they are working on it. So expect that to be raised at some point in the future. Any update on internal transfers or merchant services, or will that be Q4 or later? Internal transfers, actually had a discussion about that with our internal legal. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday, yeah. I think there's not, as far as the legal side of that goes, I think we both kind of tentatively agree that we have everything we need to make it happen. It's really just the tech side. And the tech side, at least the design has been done for quite some time. I believe product was waiting to talk to legal, just hadn't gotten there yet on that specific topic. I've talked to legal, so we're all good there. I think we do need to delve just a bit into it. We do have to change some TOSs. Right now, we're in the process of changing terms of service based on some other services that weren't included, and based on some different licensing, etc. So I think within that process, we will adjust those terms of service so that we will be able to offer those internal transfers. I don't think it's going to be Q4. I think it will still be Q3. And as far as merchant services, so that's going to be the first step in the direction of merchant services, as well as our KYC as a service, as well as our swap widget as a service. All those things, bits and pieces of each of those will be used to really create initially what would look like, I guess, like a PayPal-like merchant service. and then eventually moving into widgets and things like that, so that merchants can plug and play. That full service, yes, Q1 probably next year to really start to see that service come to fruition. But in Q4, you probably will see elements of it. What happened to 10x leverage? Hey, Jet Fuel, good question. I see my connection is now down to 1 bar. Reminds me that was an AT&T commercial. Only have 1 bar. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I can still hear me, so that's not really of any benefit to anyone else. 10x leverage is still there. We've actually been running risk models on our margin platform to understand what we can do now to make sure that the risk model flattens, meaning that we're generally net neutral on risk. We haven't found any major issues. Obviously, at one point, trams were an issue because they were the largest traders by volume on the margin platform. And that was causing a skew where when the market went in one direction, our risk was lopsided, as was the risk of the majority of the clients because of tram. That is obviously lessened in the past month, 2 months since May. So right now, it's probably that moving that to 10x probably would not be an issue, but we need to make sure that once those trams go back in action and there are new trams, that we can maintain some form of neutrality when it comes to open exposure. I believe that raising leverage will probably actually help that, but that's a discussion that we have to have in risk, and we're probably going to have it in the next week or two. Let's try collectively to get that 10x leverage over the line before the end of Q3. Hi, Kevin. How is recruiting in Mexican going? So we have a company. We're waiting on to get them complete job specs. We have 2 companies, actually, waiting to get them complete job specs. I think we're going to do that next week, maybe into the week after. They are ready to rock and roll. So we've had conversations with them. They look like they are going to be the right candidate for us collectively, both companies, to really, really find top talent here in Mexico, both for remote work and inside our offices, our new offices here in Cancun. So expect to hear lots and lots of updates about that over the coming weeks. But I think we found the right partners. What is happening with marketing? TG, Twitter, and YouTube numbers don't seem to be increasing much lately. Are you going to outsource some marketing activities? We're going to see, I think, some abrupt and also hopefully fruitful changes. I believe fruitful changes in marketing again over the next coming weeks. It's definitely one of the things that we've been at some point weren't putting enough attention on, and then we put some attention on, but maybe that attention, wasn't the right attention. And we built the team up, and then the team went back, and then the team kind of contrasted, and then we expanded the team again. And I think we're going to see a few changes again in the team over the next month or two. And our goal really is to put a lot of attention on marketing. And we attempted to do that in the past, but because of just different things, running a business and trying to get people to work together and trying to get things to work exactly as you envision them to work is not an easy task. And sometimes, you can kind of just ride the wave, right? So without you doing anything, you start to see, big numbers roll in. But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you have to find that secret sauce that gets you to the point where you can really start to snowball. And, that secret sauce is still evading us a little bit. But I definitely think we're going in the right direction under the guidance of our new COO, who some of you have heard me talk about, who is Edward. I think, we've had some really productive talks internally. We've started to see a bit of restructuring inside of the current marketing team. And definitely during our recruiting processes in Europe and in Mexico, we're going to be actively looking for some superstars to help build out that marketing team and bring in pieces of knowledge that currently are simply not within the team as it's structured now. So, my point there, I know we've said this a million times, but the thing is that eventually, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, because that's not the case. But, we've been doing lots and lots of things and making lots of mistakes and having lots of successes and having lots of failures. And that's all great. But now we've amassed quite the understanding of our market, who we need to market to, et cetera. And now that we've been in the background of all this, working on a data warehouse project, just hired a data engineer, I believe, that's now going to start to flesh out more and more of that data warehouse. We have lots of info we didn't have before. And with that info, it's really, and finding someone who can really take that info, analyze it, and tell product and tell marketing and growth and all the other pieces of the business exactly what they need to do to capitalize on that data is going to make some amazing changes. Oh, yep. See, I told you I didn't necessarily know who she was, so I pronounced it wrong because you wrote it wrong and didn't even catch it. So there you go. Finally, based. Okay. I don't know what the finally is about, but all right. Are you planning to capitalize on today's Binance announcement about removing derivatives trading for Europe? So you need to jump on that. Look, guys, let me be clear. I'm going to be very clear on this one. So inevitable. I think I talked about this happening to Binance since 2017. I said it was going to take 3 to 5 years. Well, we're 4 years in, and here you go. So smack dab right in the middle of that estimate. So good job, Kevin. Now, Binance offers futures trading, which is absolutely under the law in Europe, a derivative, and they do not have the license needed, which actually is an MTF, at least not in Estonia. It would be an investment firm license with certain permissions ticked off. But they do not have that license in Europe. They don't have a license anywhere, but they definitely don't have it in Europe. And we don't offer derivatives. We offer our margin platform, which essentially is spot trading with us providing additional margin to you so you can trade with more money than you have. Notice I didn't say the word credit because it's not credit. And notice I didn't say the word derivative because they're not derivatives. So yes, we will capitalize a bit on this news. Absolutely. I'm going to do a few 60-second videos about this one as well. We're also, I think, probably already formalizing what we're going to do on social media and getting involved in these different threads that have popped up about this across Twitter, etc. Please remember, though, that we don't trade derivatives. So we can't necessarily go after, oh, you can trade derivatives at a CoinMetro, because you can't yet. New licensing will allow us to offer options and futures and be one of the first in Europe to be able to offer that under a regulated platform. So that's going to be awesome news when that happens. Up to that point, though, you can trade on leverage at CoinMetro, and you can do so legally because it's not a licensed service. It's not because in that aspect there, CoinMetro isn't regulated to offer the service. It doesn't have to be regulated to offer the service as we currently offer it. Now, does that mean that, we kind of did the same thing that Binance does, skirted the regulation? No, there just simply isn't any regulation for non-financial assets that are traded with the company's money, essentially, but where it's not credit because we never asked for that credit to be repaid. Thus, it's not credit under the law. So again, we need to, when things like this happen, obviously the first thing in everybody's mind across marketing, I'm sure Cody was foaming at the mouth. I'm sure Monteza was foaming at the mouth. I'm sure Paul was all over it as well. And I'm sure everybody else in the company was thinking the same thing. But we need to tread somewhat lightly because, one, we do not want regulators to think that we trade derivatives, because we don't. And we do not want necessarily to look like we're trying to capitalize on a regulatory issue so that potentially those same regulators look at us to make sure that we have everything we need to trade derivatives, which we don't, but we also don't have the license to. So we don't want to bring unwanted attention. Now, would anything happen to CoinMetro if regulators came and looked to see how our margin platform? We suspect no, because obviously we've gotten legal opinions and more than one about how we operate the margin platform. We also had a discussion about it with the FSA in Estonia, because at some point they did reach out to us about some of our products. And they agreed by simply not asking for more information after our initial answer set that no license was required. But again, we need to tread like this. So yes, absolutely, we want to take advantage of this. And taking advantage of this is not a one-day show. It's not one tweet. It's not one. We've essentially been setting the groundwork to take advantage of this, the Binance collapse, over the long term since 2017. And so everything we've done up to this point has kind of all in culmination. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen in one day. We're not going to get all Binance's margin platform clients tomorrow, the next day, in 1 month, 6 months. That's not going to happen regardless of how much we take advantage. But we've been putting the groundwork to make sure that we are there as an option once this happens since the beginning. With the even tightening noose and lawsuits lined up for CZ, will CM shine and increase marketing to gain more traction and steal clients from them? Who me, Deanna? I just answered this question, but I'll tag on a bit more onto this answer for you because of the lawsuit comment. I haven't seen any actual lawsuits. Obviously, we probably will see civil cases and other things. CZ will probably inevitably step down. He'll probably bring in someone that has banking experience, regulated experience, someone who worked for a trading platform, some big name, since they have the money, that will take the leap of faith and take the risk for the massive salary that he or she may be given to step in. And they're going to try and do what BitMEX tried to do. Well, we all know what happened to BitMEX. They pretty much lost most of their market share. FTX definitely taking a lot of market share from Binance. They also aren't licensed, but at least they do business in a different way, and they've done business in a different way since the beginning. So I think the writing is on the wall. These things never happen overnight, as I said. Yes, look, CoinMetro is set up to be a place where people can come when any company, Binance or any other, that trades and does things that they shouldn't without regulation, can come and find a safe haven. When we acquire this new licensing, we'll actually be able to scream that from the rooftops in Europe, in every country in Europe. Right now, remember, we have licensing in Estonia that is geared towards crypto exchange and crypto wallet services. That licensing, as it's from Estonia, and there is no passportable license in Europe yet for crypto exchanges, we cannot go inside of each and every European country and even say that we're a crypto exchange. We can't target specific countries because we don't have the licensing to do so. Now, there are gray areas, and there are some countries that their in and from definition will allow us potentially to be able to place ads on Google and things like that. However, usually those ads are going to be in English. We're not going to be targeting in German or Dutch, etc. Again, because there's no passportable license. That's not that CoinMetro is evading regulation. Again, that's simply that there's no passportable regulation that exists inside of Europe at this time. Once we have investment firm licensing, which is passportable, it will allow us to advertise derivatives trading, options and futures on crypto assets. And we'll be able to advertise that locally in local languages. It's going to be a big step. We're obviously months and months away from that, but we're moving towards that. And that's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for CoinMetro. It's going to be huge for its client base. It's going to be huge for its bottom line. It's going to be huge for Europe in general, because they'll finally have a place that they'll be able to trade options and futures that doesn't try to trade against them, wash trade against them, or get backed, which I think will be awesome. So the answer to both of these questions is absolutely, but that doesn't mean you're going to start to see ads for CoinMetro about, oh, you can't trade derivatives at Binance, come trade at CoinMetro. There are different ways that we are going to do this. Again, we've been setting the groundwork for this by building a compliant platform and doing things the right way since the beginning. So yeah, video is good too here. Okay, good. Nice to hear that. The Murcko dog in the house. Hello, boys. Hello, Dog Mutt. How are you? When will the new copy trading page be released? It's being worked on as we speak. It's going to happen within this quarter. Not sure of the exact release date at this time, but it's currently being worked on. Currently, I think refactoring code was done, and now it's about applying the new reskin. That's the stage they're at in terms of development. It should be illegal for alarms to not work. I agree. There should be alarm jail. I'd have a lot of alarms in there, to be honest, if there was. Thanks for the weekly AMAs, Kevin. Appreciate the constant community involvement. It's really refreshing to ask anything to gain your take on the crypto space. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks for showing up and asking great questions, because if people like you didn't show up and ask great questions, I would just be here twiddling my thumbs in space, and probably not the best use of my time, to be honest. So I appreciate that. Feeling pretty deflated by XCM price performance lately. Anything specific upcoming that would generate hype or more awareness of the token? Yeah, I mean, the people say, time heals all wounds. Well, look at the crypto market in general. First, step back a bit, right? Backwards to January 1st of this year, when XCM price was between 2 and 3 cents. Now look at the price now. You'll already feel a bit better. It's literally gone up by 1x almost every month. And yes, we've fallen back a bit. But in general, I guess right now, if you think about the price, wherever it stands around 16 cents, it's at the minimum of a little slightly over 5x, upwards of an 8x. At 8x from 2 cents, which probably was in December, November, December. So roughly 1x per month on average. And yes, we did see highs of 60, 70 cents and we trailed back, and that was great. But that was also fueled by buying of a relatively small group. It was sustained by buying across the CoinMetro platform. But the initial push was a group of investors. And those investors now are waiting for their collateral to be worth the same amount of money it was worth back in March of this year, so that they can return back to supporting and buying XCM. Bringing on more clients into CoinMetro is going to inevitably mean that the price goes higher, right? It's a simple equation. More clients, higher XCM price. Simple as that. Obviously, as the market starts to recover, you're going to see what you normally see in this market, which is money flows into majors. Majors being, for the most part, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then once the majors hit a plateau or hit a range, money flows out, profits flow out of majors into miners and altcoins, etc. And you're going to start to see that again. That's the normal market move. That's how the normal market moves happen in crypto. The market itself is kind of every time the market it's called Bitcoin, and the collective market is going to go, whatever, to 100K, and the collective market cap is going to go to whatever trillion. And as soon as it goes back down to the bottom of the range, it's going to 0 to 10K. Bitcoin is and market cap is going to go to half a trillion, whatever. And so the market is still a bit jittery. It's still trying to find its legs. Once it does find its legs, I still think by the end of the year, while we may not hit all-time highs across the board, I do think we're going to see some price extension back towards those all-time highs, XCM included, towards the end of the year. Why? Well, I think a lot of people confuse what they're seeing now with what potentially we saw in 2017, and it's simply not the same market. Fundamentally, it's not the same. And while there's that famous saying that show me the chart, I'll show you the news. If you really think about that for a second, of course, because you know what news happened, you'll look at the chart and go, oh, that was the day this happened. But what that really is telling you is that fundamentals drive the market. Now, technicals will play a role because people look for technical levels as support, resistance, places to get back in the market, places to exit the market, places to maybe double down on their position. So obviously, technicals are going to be a part of that move because simply people watch those numbers to where they're going to enter and exit. However, it's the fundamentals that actually drive the market. It's not technicals. Technicals never drive a market. They help shape the market, but fundamentals are the catalyst. And the fundamentals for crypto right now are, I'm not going to call them flatlined, and they're not overly negative. Now, in 2017, when we saw any price push to the bottom of a range or breaking through the bottom of a range, we saw massive negative news. We're not seeing that this time around. We're also seeing, obviously, larger players publicly talk about how they have massive positions in Bitcoin. Now, that could be normally when I hear something like that on TV or on mass media, I think, the top is in. But the difference here is that crypto is still a very manipulable market, but the people who own it with lots of money also know that. And so it's against their best interest to manipulate it to the point where, to the downside too much, because they're going to basically lose the ability for retail to come in and buoy the market. The big market moves you see are still powered by retail. The catalyst, the fundamental catalyst, may be that story about X billionaire or Y billionaire, who's buying in, who bought in, the Amazon, who may, hire a Bitcoin developer. But at the end of the day, the market moves because that news is absorbed by the retail public, who then go and use their cash, use their crypto, and trade it in and out of these assets. So I think collectively, the market's going to do much better towards the end of the year. I think that's going to include XCM. And for CoinMetro, it's just about, definitely there's a few pieces of the business that we need to do better at. There's always going to be, though. Every business might not say this to you, there's always going to be sections of a business. There's always going to be fires. There's always going to be issues. There's always going to be pieces of the business that start out maybe well, then don't do well, or start out terrible and take time and effort and coaching. And then eventually they become well-oiled machines. And while most of the company is definitely much more well-oiled than it was 2-3 years ago, there are still bits and pieces that we need to work on. And we are actively working on them, and we're getting more and more resource work on them. And that means that, over the next months, over the next years as well, CoinMetro is going to become better and better. Compare CoinMetro now to CoinMetro 2017, no comparison. When you compare CoinMetro 2023 to CoinMetro 2021, no comparison. When you compare CoinMetro 2025, 2023, there's going to be no comparison, and we are going to be going higher and higher. The price right now, to me, still, what I look at is that we're above ICO price. Yes, we're not massively above ICO price, but we're massively above the range we held for 2 years through a bear market. And now we're holding a range, and yes, it's a pretty big range right now. Well, I wouldn't include the 60, 70 cent spike inside the range. I would say the range is more upper 40s euro cents down to about 15 euro cents, 14 euro cents, something like that. Still a massive range, but now we're creating a much, much higher range. And that's an accumulation. That looks like accumulation to me. I think we're accumulating. I think people are slowly accumulating XCM. When I look at the volumes, when I look at what's happening in the market, I can tell you that from all angles, it looks like accumulation. That doesn't mean that, maybe that price floor is going to be tested. It's healthy if it's tested. It's nothing bad if the price floor is tested. I'd love to see what happens when the price floor is tested, to be honest, just from an educational standpoint, to see if the hypothesis is true, that obviously people will then be induced to go, long on margin again at that level, considering the fact that, well, it's technical price floor, and technically speaking, it can't be broken. So anyway, I'll move on from this question because I think it went off on a bit of a tangent, so I apologize for that. Do you plan to set a way to provide liquidity in CADX to sustain KDA staking? That's a good question. We've been talking internally for a bit about our own liquidity pools, how we're going to manage our own liquidity pools, how we're going to offer something similar to what DEXs offer, but in a centralized environment. Definitely that conversation eventually is going to spill over to talk to Kadena a bit more focused about CAD. I can't really answer this question today. Well, I can answer it by saying, do you plan? I would say yes. We plan. Look, when I talk about us having partners, we like to list things. I already talked about that. Gantt chart, circles coming together, and that sweet spot of what we want to list. And I talk about our partners and how we want to do more and more with our partners and do really interesting things. That's actually truthful. And so everything Kadena does, everything Flux does, anything that we list, when they do something interesting, we want to be a part of it. We want to help them do interesting things. We want to do interesting things at CoinMetro, and we want to help these companies do interesting things. So the plan is always going to be to support our partners in everything that they do, as long as it's technically viable and as long as it's commercially viable. And sometimes even when it's not commercially viable, depending on how cool or innovative that idea may be. We will bet on our partners just like we bet on ourselves, that commercials will, get better over time. So do we plan? Yes. Specifics on when we plan and how we plan, too early for those. Have you a comment on Richard Hart Pulse chain and him raising 25 million for charity and 500 for his Pulse address, meaning he collected 500 million plus to roll this out? Hey, Jack. So I made some comments about Richard Hart in the past. I met Richard Hart just once. It was actually in Talon at an event. Didn't know who he was when I met him, but he was a larger-than-life figure. He gave a great speech. This was in the lead up to him launching Hexed Coin. It wasn't launched yet. We had a couple discussions afterward. He was a character, definitely someone that, you can sit down and have a chat with. Interesting chat, smart guy. Hex at the core is modeled pretty much like the Fed, any central bank, right? It's inflationary. It just gives that that inflation back to the owners of Hex. It obviously is modeled so that that same amount of hex is actually double minted or whatever and goes back to the origin address, which he has said that isn't his, but whose else would it be? And I think, this new Pulse chain, I can't say I know enough about Pulse chain in particular to make a bunch of comments about it. I think the larger that the whole hex and Pulse thing grows, it's going to get some regulatory exposure at some point. And definitely hex as it's modeled is a security, 100%. It's not decentralized in its entirety or almost at all. And so I do think you're going to see some issues there at some point. And the more and more that this gets raised kind of in the public side, the faster that you're going to start to see some of those regulatory inquiries. I think it's great, that money was given to charity. Obviously, it's money created out of thin air. Whether they can actually liquidate 25 million, who knows? But either way, giving money to charity is never a bad thing. A lot of times done for the wrong reasons. Now, I don't know Richard well enough to know if it was for the right or wrong reasons. I'm going to hope it's for the right reasons. Either way, he gave money to charity, so good on him. Obviously also collected a ton of money for himself. I see a lot of narcissistic personality in Richard. I don't even think he would deny that. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But, I've seen so many Richard Harts in my career in finance, both in traditional and now in crypto. Actually, in crypto, I guess there probably is only one Richard Hart entirely, but there's definitely the mentality and the way, the bravado, et cetera, I've seen in crypto many, many, many times. But I've also seen it in traditional finance over the course of, more than 2 decades. And I honestly think that at the end of the day, this is probably not going to turn out like everybody assumes it will. Now, it's been increasing in value. It's supposedly increased more than any other crypto in the history of crypto. I don't know. And that may or may not be true. Obviously, it goes against kind of the standard kind of crypto mantra because it is inflationary and it has no limit. There's no limitation on supply. At the end of the day, though, people that got in, some people make money. Some people will continue to make money. It's not really my cup of tea. I don't want to go into so much here because, maybe at one point me and Richard will have a discussion publicly and then we can both say what we want to say. And Richard's a great debater because he knows how to evade questions. He's very political in that sense. He'd probably make a good politician. I don't like to evade, but I also have the keen ability to evade a question if I really wanted to. But I think it would be an interesting conversation. Point is that I'm not going to go on about my opinions about necessarily Richard himself, but I would say that when I read between the lines, I see things that I don't necessarily like. And I don't think there's longevity here, but I could be wrong, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong for the sake of everyone that owns Hex and Pulse. Any new partnerships coming up soon? More than likely, yeah. Off the top of my head right now, I can't really think of one aside from those that have already been mentioned, but partnerships are going to become a more and more important thing in this business, like in every business, especially as we start to build out those B2B services. Reddit question by Uncle Addy. Here we go. Can you please list IOTA? It's a great project. Why is it not? Which is not listed on many exchanges. This would bring a large user base to a European exchange. Yep, we hear this a lot from a lot of different assets. This is a great asset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I believe IOTA may be on one of our lists. I remember seeing it at some point. Obviously wasn't on the shortest of short lists, but it may still be there. I think when it comes to assets like IOTA that have been around a while, that have a community, but generally the community might be bigger than CoinMetro at this point. It's difficult for us to strike a relationship with them to really entice us to list unless there are other reasons for us to list, whether that be just volumes, people asking for it, multiple people asking for it. We do need to launch this voting process on our markets page so that we can really see how many people really want to see certain assets listed. It's really going to help us find out, what we should list rather than just, putting a finger in the air and trying to guess where the wind is blowing. A real token raise. Yeah, well, yes, look, I've seen many companies raise lots of money doing things that I wouldn't do to raise the money. I've also seen companies raise money, you know, the traditional way and raise massive amounts of money, which is great. Something that raises money in its own token. You have to understand that, you know, the original Hex token, one of the genius ideas there, and one of the things that put me off is that obviously, you know, he had this. If you had a Bitcoin address, you basically got airdrop the token. But then once he had enough circulating, once he had enough people that were kind of looking to get the token, and there was some exposure, he very smartly started to sell it for ETH. And where did that ETH end up? Well, he ended up with that ETH. And then he sat on the ETH more than likely. And now look where ETH is. Now the Hex token increased in value over time as well, because they've done some really intelligent marketing, and they've also been able to get their, you know, I've seen what would be super illegal ads in the Tube in London that supposedly Hex didn't put up themselves, but they had the community, you know, put them out. So they've done things that I wouldn't do to get to that point. And they also raised the money in the same token, I believe, this time around, right? The Pulse token. Which again, I'm not sure how liquid it is and how they're what ability they're going to have to be able to liquidate those assets. Anyway, don't know enough about Pulse, to be honest, to really talk about it. So maybe even some of the things I said right there aren't even true, to be honest. And I'll be the first one to say that I haven't really read up on Pulse. I did enough reading about Richard Hart and Hex to understand that it wasn't really my cup of tea. So haven't really delved into anything else that's happening really within that realm. But yeah, look, raising money can, you know, lots of ICOs raised a lot of money and literally did nothing on purpose. And they raised money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I would go down that path to raise the money the same way they did. Will we get an Ignium AMA? Good question. That's Ramo is kind of the guy that would run the AMA, since he's the CEO. Really, right now, I play more of an advisory role and not really an operational role. So that really wouldn't be my. We did an AMA, by the way, CoinMetro and Ignium some time ago. Obviously, there's been a lot of progress at both companies since then, so it probably would make sense to do it again. Doing a joint AMA might be a thing. We can definitely work on that if that's something that people want to see. Where can we find open positions in Mexico? You will be able to find them at the same place where you can find current open positions for CoinMetro, which is apply.workable/CoinMetro, all lowercase letters. You can find current positions that we're looking for in Europe there, and you will eventually find those Mexico positions there as well once the recruiters start recruiting. Just watch a report on banner ads. Proctor and Gamble cut their online ad budget by 80% without it making a difference. Absolutely, yeah. Banner ads haven't been a thing probably for 5 to 10 years. I guess Procter and Gamble just figured that out. Sign up page now offers to register business accounts. What's different compared to personal accounts? Well, personal account you own personally, and a business account is owned by a business. That's it, really. Obviously, there can be many differences for tax structuring and risk and etc. But that's just the difference between holding you're holding your assets under a business or holding your assets personally. But that's the only difference, is that one account is owned by a business, the other is owned by a person, a singular person. Did Oliver find the time for a trip to the post office? Good question. I haven't followed up with Oliver. Maybe Oliver will pop in Telegram, even though he's on hiatus, and let everybody know. But I'll try to find out for everybody. You guys can tag me on Telegram later, and I'll try to find out. If you thought the CV trend was managed poorly, why didn't you try to intervene before it exploded? Well, that's a great question, and I'll tell you why. So we just had this conversation, or I just talked about Hex, yeah. And I have my opinions about Hex, but I'm not going to. I didn't list it. That's true. But one is having an opinion, and one is knowing a fact. Now, when I saw initially the strategy for the tram, which involved hedging, I did have a conversation with someone in the organization, not the trader himself, but someone in the organization. In fact, 2 people in the organization, saying my experience with with accounts that use hedging as a strategy. And we had a discussion, and they explained to me why they had confidence in their own trader. And that's it. It sounds simplistic, and it is, but my job is not to look, trams are managed by people or companies. companies have, their levels of authority, whether that be executives, whether it be board members, et cetera. They explained to me why they had confidence in the reasoning this would work. I explained the potential risk. They explained to me that they had things in place to protect against that risk. So I said, okay, good enough. Then the first time that they went outside of those parameters, we had another conversation. And they explained to me that the reasoning that they went out of those parameters was this, that, and the other, and explained that changes were going to be made. And again, that's it. I'm not going to forcibly step into the decision-making process of an entity. Now, had it been a single trader on CoinMetro, it may have been different. Why? Because that would allow me to talk to one single person, explain to them where I saw the potential risk, and move from there. We cannot, as a platform currently, because we're not licensed to, give advice. Also, we can't say that we, certify a program or don't certify it. Why? Because that is giving financial advice. We're not licensed to give financial advice, so we don't. So we need to remain neutral. I did step in. I did state, my thoughts. But again, they had their own thoughts. They explained to me why each time that I talked to them about why they felt that it should continue. This last time, where I didn't actually actively talk to them, but I did find out about the decision. They told me that it was going to happen, and I said, good. That's a good decision. You need to kind of cut the Band-Aid at some point, and it's good to do it now. And we did everything we could at CoinMetro to make sure that the tram did not stop out. We actually held a lot of risk on our books for a bit of time to make sure that tram stayed above water. Why? Because our commitment is to our clients, all our clients, not just the tram managers, but also to the clients that are trading. And to be honest, by the time at some point when the writing was really on the wall to say, look, I could have been wrong. That hedging strategy could have done amazing. They could be up 1,000,000% right now, right? By the time we knew that generally wasn't going to be the case, or at least it looked like it might not be the case the first time there was a major drawdown, clients would have lost a lot of money should we cut it at that point, should it had been cut at that point. Not, to be honest, fairly similar to what the current drawdown is. So yeah, in some instances, it can be a difficult decision not to step in, but I still think it was the right decision. Any new affiliate sign-up bonuses planned in the near future? Pilot campaign was a blast. I think there will be, absolutely. But for right now, given what we've seen in terms of retention from those programs, they need to be adjusted before we relaunch them. Hi, Kevin. Do you have any discussions with Quant regarding possible gateways on CoinMetro? Could you give us some information on possible passive income for Quant? No active discussions, Diego. It is a discussion we'd love to have. It's a discussion we had very, very briefly when I myself sat on a call with Gilbert, but we also talked about other things that didn't come to fruition. So I'd be open, definitely open. I think we will end up running gateways, whether it's with Quant's direct support or not. However, at this moment, there's no direct communication between us and Quant. As far as passive income, we do have plans to expand again into staking for Quant. However, there's a few things that need to happen at CoinMetro before we can do that. We are in the process of putting the foundation in for those changes, and that means that we're able to actually make money on the back of the staked Quant. One of those is obviously having Quant as collateral and margin, and we will have additional and other additional things that need to happen for that to become a reality. I do think it will happen, not necessarily in the nearest of terms, meaning it's not going to happen probably Q3, potentially might not happen Q4, potentially we're talking Q1 next year, but it may. But we are starting to make the changes that are going to be required for us to be able to offer ROI, not just on Quant, but on a multitude of other assets. Hi, Kevin. How is the recruitment going for new developers? Any good leads? Yeah, we have gotten some leads. We have had some interviews. I think we had maybe 16 or 17 candidates, 3, 4, maybe 4 interviews at this point. and one second interview so far. And we are about to launch recruiting also in Mexico, in Guadalajara, actually, where is kind of like the Silicon Valley of CoinMetro of Mexico. We expect to get some good leads. So stick here for more information on that over the coming weeks. Has CM applied for the MTF license yet? No, we have not. Still in chats with the legal team we chose, still refining exactly what our approach is going to be. And in the initial processes of document collection. The V1 of the new app is currently being tested. I actually was using it yesterday, found a few small little things, reported them. There was a few other small things reported. We are close. Can you share when development on the app actually started and what the ETA is for the first release of the native app, not referring to the wrapped web app we're getting soon? Can you share when development on the app actually started? I think, yeah, there was some, I would say, ridiculousness in Telegram the other day about somebody saying that we lied and because, development hadn't actually started. So let me break this down. It depends on what your definition of development is. For me, development means coding, right? Coding. Design is not development, though it is a piece, I guess, of the development pipeline. You can't develop anything unless you have a design. Design started when we initially approached the company helping us put together the app, which I believe at this point is something about 8 months ago, I believe. Yeah, I think right at the beginning of the year, in January, I think, somewhere in January. I think it was January. It might actually have been before. We definitely were in talks with the company before January. And I think even in November, to be honest. But I think we might have kicked off in January, if I'm not mistaken. Design took 3 months. Then there was about a month or 45 days or so of us deciding whether we wanted to move forward with development with that same company. And then we kicked off actual development, which is coding. But the app was being worked on since the end of last year into the beginning of this year. ETA, so once that initial half-wrapped app is out, V1, we expect to have bi-weekly updates. Every 2 weeks, an update to the app. And we expect the process to get to let's say, final version of this first app release, meaning that everything that we're doing inside of the web app will be able to do inside of the actual mobile app, as well as some additional features that are only available in the mobile app. We expect that to happen within 4 to 6 months of the initial release of V1. So V1 happening in August. So by the end of the year into Q1 next year, full-fledged, awesome native React Native CoinMetro app in both app stores. And then from there, obviously, continuous updates to that app. I said GAN, huh? Jeff, man, how you doing, Jeff? By the way, people, Venn diagram. Yeah, I said GAN. I realized that right when you wrote it. Yeah. Anyway, you got what I was talking about, so that's cool. Plus, you corrected me, so that's awesome as well. Anyway, Jeff, how you doing? Those who don't know, Jeff runs a really cool exchange in the UK. They've been doing great things, just like CoinMetro has been doing great things. You should check out Jeff on Facebook, on YouTube, etc. Yeah, I think they did a rebranding actually recently, which was quite cool as well. So you should check it out. What do you think of Shapeshift's airdrop and its progressive evolution to a DAO? I think it's cool for them. I think it goes around with their ethos and what they've always been talking about. I think it makes sense. They're kind of walking the walk after they've been talking the talk. So I think that's cool. I think it's a little too early. I mean, for us, I think the DAO idea is great. Up to this point, I haven't seen a DAO that's really been done in a manner that would tell me, wow, this actually might be a part of the future. Maybe Shapeshift will be the first. I think it's really cool. I think decentralization is just downright awesome, to be honest. And that's coming from a centralized exchange. I just think we're not quite there yet in terms of decentralization. I think there always will be aspects of a regulated platform that need to be centralized because of regulation. And I think at some point regulation is going to adapt, but even then there will be centralized pieces. I think hybrids are more the future, but I think DAOs are very interesting. I always thought they're interesting. Just haven't really seen it done correctly yet. I don't want to say correctly because there isn't really a correct or wrong way to do it. I haven't seen it done in a way that would tell me, you know what, I want to pursue this as well. Yet, maybe ShapeState's going to be the first one. We'll see. But yeah, Pulse will run into issues. Absolutely agree, Jeff. Absolutely. They're direct mail, post to your house, cold marketing to people in the UK right now. Well, there you go. They definitely are doing business then in the UK with no licensing and through the mail, which if you don't know, Richard Hart was accused of being the spam king back in the day, along with some other accusations of fraud on some other businesses. You can look it up online, but this is right down his alley. And that's mail fraud. So yeah, I didn't know about that one. Again, hadn't dug too much into Pulse. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Jeff. Really do appreciate it. But yeah, I don't see that all ending too well, to be honest. When do you think CoinMetro Exchange is going to be on Zelcore? Will it have prominent role as a featured partner there? That you have to ask to the dudes at Zelcore. Definitely something we've been talking about. I know they were doing some intermediate release, and then after that, they were going to get us on Zelcore on Flux. And as far as we've actually talked about that. Actually, I think we might be waiting on a rehash of our logo before we actually get as a featured partner there, I think, to be honest. Make the market page voting for new assets require XCM. Yep, that's the idea, Bobby, adding some more utility to XCM. So good on you for spotting that one before we even launch it. Apps take far longer to build than anyone can imagine. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, apps used to be, you'd go online, you'd find a developer, you'd knock out an app in like 3 months. And because nobody really had any apps, and those that did, they didn't really do anything. It was kind of acceptable. Now mobile first actually being a thing. You know, mobile first was promoted by Google, 12 years ago, I think, when they started promoting mobile first. And mobile definitely wasn't first, but mobile is absolutely first now. So people expect a very high level. Even though what you see on the front end might be very simplistic, the things that apps can do and the data that they collect and the way you can interact with them is actually much more complex than it used to be, much more complex than most web apps, actually. So yeah, the expectation is very high. And it used to take, I would say, 5 to 10K. 20 years ago for 5K, 20 years ago, Jesus, not even 20, well, 15 years ago, right? At the start of maybe the iPhone, and then going into the original Android phones, especially like Motorola when they came out with their Android line, et cetera, the Droid. It was, you know, for 5K, you could launch an app and people were okay with it. It was fine. Then it was maybe 10, then that was 25, then it was 50. Now, you know, it's 500,000, 1 million to get a decent app in the App Store. And from there, with updates and everything, it is into the millions now. It's quite amazing how that market has progressed. We'll see them ever get any airdrops. We will. More listings we do, there definitely will be airdrops. We do have the airdrop family. Awesome, Jeff. We do have the airdrop family. Yeah, that is a thing and will be a thing. We just necessarily haven't done the rash of listings that would be required to get some into that family, airdrop family. I had a nightmare today that CoinMetro partnered with the German credit scoring agency, and my mortgage rates skyrocket because they deem crypto as bad. It's a pretty complex dream, man. That's actually a nightmare. I mean, sorry, not a dream. I was going to say that's not really a dream. Yeah, we haven't partnered with Shufa, and we don't plan to ever. So that nightmare hopefully will never happen. Actually, I can tell you, it probably will never happen. You got one. You got a Pulse Direct. Oh man, tell me that you like framed that, took a picture of it, and posted it to like you know, a couple websites or something. That's amazing. There's quite a lot of audacity there. Again, narcissism. I mean, whatever. But the audacity. I mean, look, Richard Hart is a smart guy. He's smart, man. I met him once. His persona is very much, I think, created by Richard, and for a very specific reason. But he's larger than life in person, literally. And he's not an idiot. He absolutely knows the road he's going down. And he either thinks he can beat it or he doesn't care or doesn't, because I can't imagine he doesn't know. He absolutely knows. Anyway, enough about Hex and Richard Hart and Pulse. But thanks for that information, Jeff, because I didn't know that. So that's a cool one. I'll put that feather in my hat for when I have my potential battle here with Richard Hart at some point publicly. I think it's going to come at some point. It'll be fun. Hopefully we'll shake hands before and after and have a good time making fun of each other. Anyway, we're at 59 minutes and 43 seconds, everybody. Nice to see you here, Jeff, by the way. Let me know when you're going to do an AMA next. I'd love to come to one of your AMAs. We should do another one together, actually. I think it's about time. There's been a lot of stuff happening at both companies. I think it would make sense. So we can talk about Binance finally collapsing. Man, Jeff, me and Jeff used to talk about that all the time. Jeff was on Blocks Live TV with me. We also did a few other things together. We used to talk about the Binance collapse. We were the two guys always saying, actually, there's another guy on there, a third guy as well, that used to talk about it. But me and Jeff, that was definitely the mantra that we were singing, and regardless of what the question was, like, how's the weather today? I'm like, well, it's a good day for Binance to collapse, or, how was your Tuesday? Well, Binance had a glitch, so that made Tuesday great. We always just try to throw the Binance in there. So it's nice to see some of that writing on the wall come to fruition. We're still in early days of what's going to happen to Binance, but we should do something about it, Jeff, man. I think it would be good. Anyway, we hit an hour. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks for dealing with me stuttering a few times and just not being all that professional today. Hold on. Who me banana will take this one. Will they get legal action taken against them? That's a good question. It's going to be difficult for legal action to be taken against the company that really doesn't exist anywhere. CZ may end up having issues, but I'm going to go on a whim here. This is a conspiracy theory like no other. But I'm going to throw it out there. I think CZ is a pawn for the Chinese government. I don't think anything happens to CZ, or he's a scapegoat and everything happens to CZ. One or the other. I think it's one extreme or the other. We'll see. The Binance bubble, absolutely. Yeah, Leia, let's get Leia involved. She can definitely run the show. Why not? It'd be nice to get the team back together. Cool. All right. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. It's Friday. So the best thing you can do to relax on Friday after getting home from work, even if you're working at home, if you like, crack a beer, take your shoes off, put your feet up on the table, watch some Netflix. And then while Netflix is on and you're watching something that you really don't want to watch because, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whatever really likes the show and you hate it, make sure you get your mobile phone out, buy some XCM, because that's just going to make you feel better because, there's nothing better to do on a Friday than buy XCM. Now, you notice we don't send that on direct mailings to people's houses. That's amazing. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Spend time with friends and family. If you can't do it in person, well, do it virtually. Hopefully you can do it in person. I think even in the UK now you can do it in person. That's crazy. I thought the UK was never going to open up again. I thought it was going to go back to 1500s and people were going to be trapped inside of big walls. But good to know that the UK is trying to open up. That's awesome. Anyway, spend time with some friends. Get drunk, do something crazy, buy some XCM, which isn't crazy, which is actually really, really sound thing to do, especially when you're drunk. See you guys here next week. Tag me on Telegram at Kevin Murcko. Tweet me at Kevin Murcko on Twitter. See you guys in the Twitter sphere and in the Telegramopolis. I don't know what you call it. Elbow cough. All right, right on. See you guys later. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the support as always.